I completed my first marathon this year. This video takes you on the full journey, including the training, the gear, the nutrition, and the big day itself. I'll be sharing what I've learned through the process and recommending things that have worked for me. Whether you've always wanted to run a marathon, you have FOMO from all the people running marathons this year, or you've reached that stage in your late 20s, early 30s, where the answer to all your problems in life is, let's run a marathon, then this video should really help. Now, the first section of this video was recorded pre-marathon, when I was in the midway point of my training. And this will give you a detailed breakdown of my training plan, the types of runs that I did, the gear that I've bought, and my biggest learnings through the training phase. The second section is going to give you a breakdown about the race day itself, talking through how it went on the day, what you can expect, the fueling that I went for, and a little bit of a play-by-play of what was going through my head at different parts. So let's get on with it. I'm training for the Manchester Marathon in April. This is going to be my first ever marathon. Come with me as I talk through my training, what I've learned, and what tips I have for you. This is a non-scientific breakdown. I've wanted to do a marathon for years. I vividly remember being in secondary school specifically saying that I'm going to do one, but I never have. And I've put it off and off because really I know that if I'm going to do it, it's going to take over my life. And it has. When I try something, especially something new and exciting, I tend to go all in. I end up getting all of the gear, end up going multiple times a week, and then usually burn out in a couple of months or so and never touch it again. I did this with bouldering, I did it with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and a little bit of lacrosse. But that is sort of perfect for a marathon. Realistically, the overall process shouldn't take more than a few months anyway. But from having done a half marathon a few years ago, I knew the training was going to be tough. I did the half marathon in 2019 and I really thought the full marathon was going to follow. It hasn't. And I'm getting later into my 20s now, so it's sort of now or never. I've got to make that 13-year-old self proud. Anyway, this is what I've been doing and what I've learned so far. The plan. So I've been following a 16-week plan that I found online. Nothing crazy, but the plan lined up perfectly with when I wanted to do my marathon. It's probably not the best or most dialed plan, but it's something simple that I can follow that will lead me right up to marathon day. The plan basically consists of 4 running days a week. 2 training runs, running at zone 2, 1 pace run, which is a bit of speed work or marathon pace, and then on Sundays, I always do a long run. Monday is a day off, Tuesday is a pace run, Wednesday is a training run, Thursday's off, Friday's a training run, Saturday's off, and Sunday is the long run. Now each week, these distances have been increasing slowly to ramp it up in advance for the marathon. And then every other couple weeks, it reduces the distance, sort of like a 2 step forward, 1 step back kind of thing. So far, I'm 13 weeks into the training plan, and I have to say it's been relatively easy to follow. I'd committed to doing this thing, so it's getting done. I mean, the first few weeks were super easy. Motivation was flying high, and I do have to say it's getting a lot tougher now. The distances have increased, and so then the time to finish the runs just takes so long. I can't just pop out at lunch to get a run done. It really just takes over some evenings as well. Even on a week when my long run is a deload week, you're still running very far. But this is marathon training, so I'm not complaining. So what are these runs? The pace runs are probably my favorite. I love pushing myself. Love seeing how hard I can go. Now these are meant to be done at marathon pace according to my training plan. But I do find that I tend to push myself a little bit quicker than I should be on these runs, which is probably to my detriment, but it makes it more exciting. But I found that as my training's progressed, I'm able to maintain like a higher pace for even longer on these pace runs. And I've even set PBs for 5Ks and 10Ks during this time. Training runs are my least favorite. Now these are meant to be sort of done as slow as possible in zone 2, purely fat burning, just to build up time on your feet. They just keep getting longer and longer, and they currently sit about 8 miles per run. They are so boring. As I say, low heart rate, low speed. You can't possibly smash these runs out. You have to do it slowly. But people say these are the runs that make the difference. These are the ones to really build up your capacity to make the most up on marathon day. The last type of run is the Sunday long run. And this run does exactly what it says on the tin. It is a long run on a Sunday. This is the run to really push those maximum distances that you've ever done. Over my training, this has been the runs where the distances fluctuated the most, where it's been increasing for a couple of weeks and then decrease for that 3rd week and then go back to increasing again. And these are meant to be treated similar to the training runs, taking it super easy and just really building up that time on the feet and the distance. The furthest I've ran so far is 19 miles. The furthest I will run as part of this plan is 20 miles. And that's still over 10K away from the entire marathon distance. And that 20-mile run is going to be done about 3 weeks prior to the marathon, and then it's really going to taper down in advance of the big day. So that was the training. Now on to the gear. Now shoes. Before I started this process, I went up to Runner's Need and I got a step analysis thing. And I got a fresh pair of trainers. I wanted the most supportive pair because I'm going to be ranking up those miles. And I've got these Asics, and they've been absolutely great. They've been perfect for every run, easy, great cushion. In comparison to the trainers that I had before, which was some Hoka carbon ones, they're much more supportive, a little bit slower, but you know, they're fine to just smash out the runs. Now on race day, I'll be wearing a sexier pair, which I think are going to be the Nike Vaporflies, because they look really cool and sexy and hopefully should make me quicker. Less cushion, more bounce. Vest. Now I actually bought a running vest and I thought it was a great investment for my Sunday long runs, especially for that and also the slow runs too. Just being able to have somewhere to hold my phone. It's got a fancy little handle for the keys, pockets for your gels, 2 water bottles that it came with too. This has been absolutely perfect. Recently also got a belt, a new addition, which I use when the vest just seems a little bit over the top. I can carry a phone in here, key, couple gels, so sort of perfect for any run. Tights. Now I've invested in a couple pairs of tights, a couple half tights and 1 pair of long tights. Now these also help with the anti-chafe, plus you look sick as fuck. You look sick as fuck and you feel like an athlete. Last bit of gear is the sunnies. Now these are perfect for those sunny wintry days when you've got the low sun in the sky and you know, you get slightly more aerodynamic. There's no wind in your eyes and you think you look cool. And I think that must knock off at least 10 seconds per kilometer. So what have I found during this process? So what's been really interesting to me is the fact that I've hit PBs in my 5K and 10K. More so surprising about the 5K, to be honest with you. I haven't set out to do any speed related training, but just by increasing my overall fitness, doing the longer runs, I found that translated to my 5Ks, and I did a couple of park runs right at the start of the process and I hit PBs straight away. Absolutely mental. Similar to this, recently hit PB in the 10K, and again, I think that's just by increasing the capacity overall, able to maintain those paces for longer. I've been able to smash out PBs that I have not even been trying for. Training runs are really hard, but apparently very valuable, so stick with them. It can be so frustrating when you're out there doing your zone 2 run and someone else is running past you, going all quick, and you know you've got more in the tank and you just got to let them go, because that's not what you're doing. You're on your training run. It's you versus you, forget everyone else. You're on your training run. So that's been a thing that I've had to learn is, you know, focus on yourself and do the training. I've also found that larger distances become easier mentally. Like the first time I did 15 miles, I came back from the run and I was nearly in tears. It was the furthest my legs had ever taken me. I'd done the half marathon a few years prior, and I was just absolutely mind blown that I did 15 miles. Sadly, 15 miles is nowhere near a marathon, and I've had to do more runs since then and further distances, but it's mental to sort of reflect back, and on the early runs, the idea of 6 miles being really far, and now if I have to smash out 18 miles on a weekend, I'm doing 3 of those. So that first 6 miles just disappears. So your mental perception of how far things are changes. Not too much, because even if you've still got an 8-mile run day, that's still 8 miles, so that sucks. But you know you can do it. Another thing that I've spotted is you need to be able to front load your long runs. For me, the routes that I'd go on for my long runs tended to be sort of one route, just because I ran like along the canal, so it's flat, slightly downhill on the way out and slightly uphill on the way out, the way back, but it's fairly flat, it's a canal. However, it's the same route every time, and as the distances are getting further and further, I'm adding more at the other end. One of the things I found was you need to be able to front load the long runs. Try and get as much of the mileage in your first half, especially if you're going to a point and back again. Because on the way back, you want to just get back as quick as possible. You don't want to be trying to find the extra mile here or there that you haven't quite done. If you can front load the run, add a couple loops around little fields on your way through, then it just makes the way back a lot better. Another tip is stretching before and after the runs. I'm not a massive stretcher, but this is something that I've really had to bring into the mix, especially stretching the calves. I had some massive issues with my calves early on in the process, still give me some jip to this day, but it's helped a lot by stretching before and after. Also, before the long runs, and you probably should do it more than this, but I do it before the long runs, is rolling out. So I've got a foam roller, one of these bad boys, roll out with this for like 10 minutes max, you'll be fine. I just focus on the calves, and that sets me up perfectly. Other tips is just really following a plan. And if you've got a plan, try and stick to it. When you're sticking to a plan, you're able to build momentum. Stick to your plan, build the momentum, try not to miss any runs. If you've got a busy weekend when you've got actual plans, just shuffle runs around, but just make sure they're not missed. And make sure the progress is being tracked. If you can track the progress, you can see if there's days that you're missing things, and that'll really keep you accountable to sticking to the overall process. Now, I use Strava, and I find it so interesting reflecting back on my runs to see how well I've done. Looking at the heart rates, paces, steps per minute, etc. Mainly like the heart rate and pace to know that, wow, my heart rate was absolutely crazy for that pace 3 weeks ago. Now I can handle that pace with a much lower heart rate. That's been quite interesting to see. As I said, get comfy, supportive shoes. You are going to be doing a lot of running, so many miles, so it needs to be comfy. I found that music on my pace runs works very well. Podcasts and books work best for slow runs. And lastly, about fueling, just try and test different fueling methods. I've tried gels. I'm going to try some carbohydrate drinks. I've tried the classic TikTok runner peanut butter bagels with bananas on top. That did not go well for me. My body did not like to run after that. Weetabix and bananas though, that shit slaps. Obviously pasta is a godsend, and I've been absolutely carb loading all the time, which has been an absolute dream. So yeah, this is a non-scientific breakdown to the training that I've been doing for my marathon. So let's talk about the big day itself. I'm going to start off with like the preparation for the day. We went up to Manchester the day before, stayed in an Airbnb and had a few different things that we wanted to plan out. Firstly, planning the travel for the day. You need to know where you need to get to, what time you need to be there, how you're going to get there, because it's going to be busy on the day, right? There's thousands of people that are all there to run a marathon. The streets are busy, there's road closures, so planning in advance is so key to not have as much stress on the day as possible. The second part of the planning was also planning where I'm going to meet my family. I was fortunate enough that I had 3 key supporters on me on the day, and I'd highly recommend trying to get people to come there and support you. Obviously, there's going to be thousands of people on the street, but seeing those faces in the crowd that you know is such a motivator. So I had 3 people come up, Mum, Mike, and my housemate Rich, and we had to plan where I was going to meet them during the run. Now my supporters had roles, right? They weren't just there to cheer me on, I wanted to make them work. So I had some pre-made bottles of juices and things. I'll go into the detail of what they were in a bit, but they would hand to me at different points in the race. So I had to make sure I knew where they were going to be, make sure it was a bit where it's probably not going to be too busy. I tried to space it out, so I met Mum and Mike at about 8 or 9 miles in, and then I met Rich about 17 miles in. And that broke down the race massively for me because I had little checkpoints that I could hit. Another big part of the prep was all the carb loading. Now this was my favorite part about the day before, to be honest with you. I could just eat so much sugar. It felt wrong, but apparently in theory this is what you're meant to do. You're meant to have, I think I was meant to have like 600 grams of carbs in a day, which is an obscene amount of carbs, but I did my best effort to try and get there. I had things like waffles, pancakes, honey. I was literally dipping pancakes in honey, pouring honey on waffles and shoving it in my face, accompanying that with some crisps, accompanying that with some like Tantastics, and then some basic pasta. And that was my day, just sweets, carbs, loads of it. And I ate carbs up until about 8 p.m. the day before the race, and then didn't eat anything again until breakfast. The last thing that I really had to plan was my pace. Following all the training and approaching the race day, I had a pace in mind that I wanted to hit. Obviously, it's you against you out there. These paces and analysis are how I found they were for me. To some of you, that's going to seem really slow. To some of you, that's going to seem really quick. But ultimately, it's all about the pace that you feel comfortable with, right? So I knew that I should be able to get sub 4 hours. With the way that the train was going, if I didn't get sub 4 hours, something must have terribly gone wrong. And that works out about 5 minutes 41 per kilometer. 3 hours 45 was like the next band of what I was aiming for. And this works out as 5 minutes 20 per kilometer. And the way that the training had been going, the way my long runs were going, I should have been able to hit that. Never run a marathon, so I don't know for sure, but in my head, I wanted to hit 3:45. But as I was getting closer, and with the last long runs that I was doing, there was something inside me that wanted to go for the magic 3 hours 30. And that just seemed like such a push. I was actually scared to admit it to people. Like, if people asked me what time we're going to go for, I would say like the 3:45 would be what I'm hoping for, right? But deep down, I wanted 3:30, but I was scared to say it because I was
scared I wouldn't hit it. But deep down, 3:30 was the target. Now that's roughly 4 minutes 58, just sub 5 minutes per kilometer. And that's a sub 25 minute 5K. And a marathon's about 8 5Ks, 8 and a bit. So that's 8 sub 25 minute 5Ks in a row. So I knew it was going to be hard, but I'd set that as the target. So to do that, the target pace for the race for me was try and hit as many kilometers under 5 minutes as I could. So the day itself. So I wake up in a reasonable time, a couple hours before I'm meant to start the race, get up, have a bagel, have honey on that bagel and have banana on that bagel. A tried and tested formula that I tried through my training program that I knew worked for me. I was then dropped off at the tram station so I could get into the town nice and easy. Already had my route planned out and I'd got there in enough time that I was front of the queue for the tram and beat the rush, because by the time the tram actually came, they were queuing round the corner. So honestly, having the preparation in advance helped a lot there. Getting there in a timely manner helped. I mean, you probably would have made the race in time anyway, but for my mental health, just not having to rush was good. So I'm taking the tram all the way to the start line. Now on the tram, loads of people are chatting to each other. Oh, how's your first marathon? Oh yeah, it's my first marathon. I was a little bit nervous at this point, so I didn't speak to anyone. I was just sort of in my zone, trying to ignore the fact that I'm going to have to run really far very soon. But then you get there, there's a place for you to be able to drop your bag off. There's lots of portaloos and toilets. We got loads of people queuing to have their nervous wheeze. I made sure to have a couple nervous wheeze before I headed to the start line. But you've got people everywhere, sort of just stretching, sort of getting ready. It's like a holding area at this point. And in this section, there's a guy in a tannoy, which is sort of directing the different bands of people so they know who's next to go. I was in the green band, which I think was like the 5th or 6th band to be released. So I was only allowed so far or so close to the start line until a certain time. But it all became very clear because you can hear everyone on the tannoy and people are directing you. If they see your color and they know you're up, they'll be sort of pushing you in the right direction. So it gets to the point where the green band is pushed into the next stage. And there it's getting a bit real now. I'm very excited. Start to chat to people. I highly recommend you to do this. Try and take in the atmosphere. Even at this point, there's like thousands of people around. There's such a buzz in the air. A bit of a nervous energy too, because everyone knows what's going to happen, but it's still great vibes. A message that came clear from a couple of people I spoke to, they sort of drilled into me that the first 30k, a marathon is 42k. The first 30k is apparently a warm-up. And it's that last 12k where like it really, really matters. I'd also been pre-warned that you will hit a wall. The wall is real, you will hit a wall. So, I mean, that sort of humbled me a bit and made me sort of rejig where I thought, not that I thought I was going to go out flying, but it made me think like, okay, this is serious. Just like take it easy for the first 30k. We then get brought through to sort of the second holding area, and this point right by the start line. At this point, you can drop your jacket off. Now they recommend that you bring a jacket with you. Obviously it's Manchester in April, it's not the warmest out there. I just had an old one and you sort of chuck it in these bins and they go away to charity. So I'm ready to go. All my gear's on, I've got my number on, my jacket's off, I'm raring to go. Band before me, the blue band, haven't quite gone yet, and we're just off the side from the starting point. And they have different paces. There's different paces so that I need to follow this guy with the flag if I want to hit this time. For example, there'll be a 4-hour pacer, a 3-hour 45 pacer, a 3-hour 30 pacer, a 3-hour 15 pacer, etc. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't see a 3-hour 30 pacer in the green band that I was in, and I was panicking because I thought, well, if I don't see the pacer, how am I going to be able to hit my time that I want to hit? So I was cheeky and actually joined the group before me, ended up joining the blue group and running a little bit earlier than I should have. So I'm at the front, ready to go, pacer in my eye, marathon's about to start. And it kicks off. It's so exciting. It was so congested at the start. The first kilometer or so, maybe the first 2 kilometers were so congested. You struggle to really get a rhythm, get your pace. You've got people trying to overtake, people slowing you down. I'd say just try and get through that first couple kilometers without tripping and trying to keep a reasonable pace. As I say, I needed to hit a sub 5-minute kilometers all the way through to give me a chance at the 3:30, and my first kilometer was like 5 minutes 10. So at this point I'm panicking a little bit because I'm thinking I'm behind schedule, but I feel like everyone else realized that too, because the second kilometer ended up being 4 minutes 50. So, and I was just following the pack, right? I'm getting sort of driven along with everyone around me, and that pushed us to sort of level back out on that 5 minutes. So as I mentioned before, having supporters there helped break up the race for me. Rather than me running 26.2 miles, I was running 8-9 miles to see Mum and Mike. I was then running 10 miles to go and see Rich, and then I was making it back. And by breaking it up into little sections, it became more manageable as the thing as a whole. So the first 8 or 9 miles sort of flew by. You went into Manchester city centre, You've got the crowd screaming on both sides. It's great atmosphere, loads of people sort of cheering you on. Because you've got your name on your vest, you've got everyone just sort of shouting your name, like, go Josh, go, which was like really, really nice. But so that first 8 or 9 miles, I was sort of cruising, meet Mum and Mike, little boost by meeting them. They give me water bottle, which has extra stuff in there, like sugars and electrolytes. That's a good point. I should probably talk through the fueling for the race as well. Little side note, here we go. So for the race, I went with 4 cyst gels, 1 caffeine gel, and 2 500ml water bottles filled with glucose and electrolytes. All things to help me stay energized and effective for the whole race. I had the gels to top up my sugars and to fight off fatigue, the caffeine gel to keep my sharpness so I don't mentally fatigue and lose my head, and then the electrolytes to replenish the salts and minerals so I don't dehydrate and to fight off cramp. Now, all of these things had been tried and tested through the training, so I knew my body would get on with them. You're not meant to try anything new on race day. Don't risk it. For the gels, I just had these basic cyst gels. The caffeine gels I just found on Amazon. They have about 200 milligrams of caffeine in per tube. The glucose powder was from My Protein, and I'd have 1 scoop's worth per drink, which is about 48 grams of carbs. And then lastly, I'd put 2 electrolyte tablets in each drink as well. This drink contained magnesium, potassium, calcium, vitamin C and sodium, all things to avoid cramp. All the gels could fit into my shorts pockets and belt pockets, but the drinks had to go to the support team. I took 1 gel every 30 minutes, or about every 4 miles. The caffeine gel I had at the halfway point, and I took the bottles at about 8 miles and 18 miles. And that would provide me with the equivalent sugar of a gel and the electrolytes. So I hit my first checkpoint. I reached Mum and Mike, they give me my bottle, and I'm ready to go. And by this point, everyone's spread out quite a lot, so you've got your own space, you're able to sort of get into a rhythm of the pace. And at this point, every kilometre that I've been doing has been sub 5 minutes. I've been keeping a stern eye on the watch, making sure that I'm checking it off again and again. Okay, another one in the bank, another one in the bank. Because I know I've been told that I'm gonna hit a wall. I'm gonna hit a wall 30k in. The 30k is a warm-up. After that, you will crash, you will hit a wall. So I'm terrified of this and thinking, well, if I can get many in under 5 minutes, then I've got more in the tank. So if I do slow down, I've banked enough time that I can use that as like a savings account to withdraw from and hopefully still be under the 5 minutes as an average. But by the time I'm 8 or 9 miles in, I am flying. I am consistently hitting sort of 4:50, 4:55, 4:45, depending on the kilometre, but fairly consistent around that range all the way as I'm going. My next checkpoint was 17, 18 miles in when I managed to meet Rich. He again had another bottle for me. At this point, I've flown through most of my gels. I think I may have like 1 or 2 gels left. I've done the caffeine gel, I've got through a bottle, drank some water, but at this point I remember flagging a little bit. We'd just done like the first proper hill of the race, which was through the town. Not a massive hill, but it's quite a flat circuit, so any little hill sort of takes it out of you. I saw Rich, got my bottle, that injected some pace instantly, and I think I had my fastest kilometre following that. And after that point, I'm solo. I'm not seeing anyone else until the finish line. So at this point, the finish line's the goal. Now through the race so far, I have had headphones on, so I've got AirPod Pros, which allow you to amplify the outside world or mute the outside world. So the first few kilometers, I actually didn't have them in. I wanted to sort of try and take in the atmosphere as much as I could. And then I actually put in the music, but I had it amplifying the outside world so I could still hear my songs, but hear the world around me, hear people cheering, wanted to take in the atmosphere. It was amazing. But after the point where I'd got through the 17, 18 miles, I knew I was approaching that sort of 30 kilometer cutoff point that was gonna kill me, according to folklore. So I reached the 30 kilometer mark, and I'm still managed to maintain that pace. I'm sub 5 minutes every time, and nothing's crashed yet. The wheels haven't fallen off. Like, okay, that's done now. Now we've only got like 10k left. I've done a lot of 10ks in this training program. I've done 10ks quite a lot. I can do 10k. So at that point, my mentality just switched, and I was ready to just finish the race and get it done in as quick of a time that I could. And so about maybe 5k in, I went from amplifying the world to ignoring the world. I thought at this point it's game time, and shut off the outside world, focus on the race. So I locked it in and just put eyes forward, straight to the finish line. And at this point, you're passing a lot of people, right? If you're doing well, which anything can happen in a marathon. I was fortunate enough that I didn't pull anything, I didn't get any cramps until the finish line. Yeah, I had no injuries, so I was fortunate enough that I was still able to maintain my pace. But quite a few people ahead weren't so fortunate. So you've got people sort of dropping back along the way, and as bad as it was for them, I wasn't feeling that way, and it was a nice little mental boost to be like overtaking these people. So I felt like I was absolutely flying the last 5k, overtaking people left, right, center. I'm better than you, better than you. I wasn't saying this out loud, obviously, but the little things that you say in your head to like help motivate you to get across the line. And then you approach the home straight, the final sprint. And at this point, I know I'm on for a really good time. I'm on for a time better than I'd hoped. But I wasn't sure the exact time because I still was just like, no, focus on finishing, focus on finishing. So I just sprinted my last 400 meters. I say sprint, it probably wasn't that quick. It felt quick, but watching the video back, it wasn't that quick. I was so locked in for this last bit that my poor supporters, mum is absolutely screaming my name. And I'm just head forward, locked in, ignoring the world. See the finish line. It's a long straight to the finish line, right? So you can see it over there, and my eyes are on it, and that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at that and just like plowing forward to try and get there. And I did it. Crossed the line. I'd given it my all in that last sprint, and so much so that the second I crossed the line, my hamstring went. My left hamstring pulled, or cramped up. Sorry, my left hamstring cramped up. And I'd never felt pain like it before. And I remember struggling so much. I went off to the side, literally trying to stretch it out. And like, I've just ran 26 miles. I can't even take it in because my body's like broken up. How quick was I? Have I done it? Am I finished? And then I see a guy in a high vis coming over to me, a medic. I'm thinking, fantastic. Finally, someone's like, sees me in pain, is going to help me out. And he comes up to me and he like, grabs me, whispers in my ear. It's like, oh, you know, how you doing? I was like, oh no, yeah, really bad cramp in my hamstring, like help me. And he just tells me that I need to keep moving and move forward, and just shoos me away. So I move on all defeated. But I wasn't defeated because I just finished fucking marathon. And I finished my watch, clocked the time, and it was 3 hours 25 minutes. 3 hours 25 minutes. Sub 3:30. All the prep work that I'd put into it paid off. All the planning on the day, all the fueling, everything sort of just came together. The strategy worked. I'd built up enough time in advance. And then because I didn't hit a wall, because I didn't crash, all that extra work just worked in my favor for an even quicker time. So I was absolutely buzzing with the time. Finished in the top 10% of people, I think it was. But yeah, very emotional. Crossed the finish line. After that, I met with the fam. We then went back onto the course to help cheer other people on. But at this point, the body was starting to shut down. My legs were in bits. My feet hurt. I was struggling to be a human at that point. Yeah, my body was broken. And my body was broken for the next few days. Be aware of that. My body was broken for the next few days. Standing up and straightening the legs was an issue. But overall, some of my takeaways from the experience is an amazing day. It was an amazing day, not just for me, but from the supporters as well. Like, they said they had such a good day. Like, just being out, being able to support people, see everyone bettering themselves, doing a good thing was just amazing. I got emotional through the run. I think I cried. Not bawling, but obviously like welled up and stuff. I think I must have cried like 3 times during the race. One fairly early on, because I was like, we're running in a pack, and I'm like with everyone else who's there bettering themselves. I'm doing that. I'm finally doing the marathon that I said I wanted to do, that made that young me proud. I'm doing it now with everyone else. That was so cool. At one stage, I've got a song, shout out Jamie XX, Obs, which I want at my funeral, because I just really like the song. I think it's a really nice song. That song came on probably like 23 miles in, so I'm near the end. I've pushed past the like 30k boundary and feeling good, and then that song comes on, that gets me. And I think that was another point as well, but it was funny, it just brought out so much emotion in you, because yeah, it was such a big day, such a great experience, so I highly recommend it to anyone. Oh, another great thing about the marathon as well was the signs. So you'd have like loads of people with different signs out, people rightly so flagging the fact that you've still got 6 park runs left. Various other ones, I actually clearly can't remember them, so they can't have been that impactful, but I remember them just making me laugh as I was going around, right? You're running, it could be quite a monotonous task, but having the different people around, different signs, found that quite motivating. My favourite signs were the touch here to power up signs. These were tended to be in the hands of children. They'd have like the Mario mushroom and like press here for like a power up, and I would try and do as many of them as I could, because I don't know, it was fun. The kids having fun, you feel energized from it, Little things like that really help. But obviously the marathon itself is such a mental thing. It's making sure you keep going for a very long time. And so like anything that can help motivate you and pick you up is massive. So I would advise anyone that's doing stuff and they see people around with those sort of signs, like hit them. It actually does give you a boost. People will also be there with like sweets and things, like give you little sugar rushes. So like the whole community aspect was amazing. So yeah, highly recommend. So yeah, that was the full breakdown of my first marathon, from the training plan to the big day itself. I now need to go and find my next challenge. My next challenge to keep pushing me and see how far we can go. If that sounds interesting to you, follow along and we'll see you on the journey. Thank you.